I wasn't originally going to discuss this at all, but when I heard you mention the US-China trade deficit on your stream with Sitch, I thought it might be worth including here anyway.
No, I know exactly because of
Okay.
MMT. The trade war stuff is bonkers.
There you go.
Like
Adam knows. He knows what's up.
China wants to give us all their stuff for paper that we send to them. Sure, sounds like that's a great deal to me. Fighting against a trade deficit is totally moronic. A trade deficit is legit good for us. Are you kidding me?
Right.
If you're going to trade your brand new 2021 Tesla to me for my 1999 Volkswagen Jetta, okay?
Why would I do that?
That's a trade deficit right there. I'm fucking stoked. Give me your Tesla. Here, take my piece of shit.
Yeah, but that's not the way it actually works, though.
Why not?
Like, they're paying for the car. You're not trading one car for a shitty car, right?
We're sending them paper for it. We're sending them US dollars. They're trading for treasury, for T-bills.
I agree with your analysis that Americans are benefiting from importing things that you want in exchange for worthless paper. But I don't necessarily agree that this is a good thing, because I don't think it's sustainable. You may benefit from it in the short term, but ultimately people are going to realize that America is cheating. And the reason the USA is able to parasitize the production of the rest of the world is due to the US dollar's status as global reserve currency. In France, it was called America's exorbitant privilege, as it resulted in an asymmetric financial system where foreigners see themselves supporting American living standards and subsidizing American multinationals. As American economist Barry Eichengreen summarized, it costs only a few cents for the Bureau of Engraving and Printing to produce a $100 bill, but other countries had to pony up $100 of actual goods in order to obtain one. This creates an artificial demand for dollars outside of the United States, which is conveniently hand-waved away by MMTers. So long as this continues, the USA can follow the economic model of MMT as much as it wants, but eventually trade partners will cease exporting their goods for paper, and the USA will have no industry to support itself or offer to others. And as much as this sounds like a cliche, I'd like to make comparisons to the crisis in Venezuela. So Venezuela had some of the largest oil reserves in the world, which were exported across the globe. And this led to a phenomenon known as Dutch disease. Dutch disease is a shorthand way of describing the paradox which occurs when good news, such as the delivery of large oil reserves, harms a country's broader economy. Symptoms include a rising currency value caused by high demand for currency outside the country, which leads to a drop in competitiveness of other exports. The Venezuelan government's solution was to nationalize the oil production with the corporation PDVSA. My only knowledge of them is as one of the biggest sponsors of F1 ever, providing us with the driver Pastor Maldonado. This malinvestment brought us such brilliant things as www.hasmaldonadocrashedtoday.com and maldonadopenaltycounter.com.
Have been having a little bit of a chuckle, probably unfairly, at Pastor's expense so far this weekend, because he's had a couple of incidents. I mean, this is the guy who's been going on saying that penalty points probably shouldn't be awarded because it's going to discourage wheel-to-wheel racing, but this guy at the moment, he seems to be shorn of confidence.
Yeah, there's a lack of mentality here because he's got to have more concentration. The first one, especially with fiddling around with the knobs on the steering wheel, but as far as this one goes, and that reaction there from the mechanic, I think sums it up.
Anyway, socialising the profits from oil production allowed the government to provide very generous welfare and social programs, which further disincentivised people from working. They then went further to nationalise other businesses, and without a profit incentive, it was able to undercut private businesses in a process known as crowding out. Does this remind any Americans of USPS? And Venezuela also beat us by 7 years with this headline. Eventually, the oil-funded party came to an end when oil prices halved in 2014. As the overseas demand for Venezuelan bolivar dropped, the world's foreign exchange reserves flooded back in, and the effects of debt monetization and deficit spending in Venezuela became apparent. This is a process known as Gresham's Law, which is a monetary principle stating that bad money drives out good. For example, if there are two forms of money in circulation, the more valuable money will gradually disappear from circulation. In this case, bolivars disappeared from overseas reserves. The United States is currently facing a similar precipice, but without the trade surplus that Venezuela had to justify it. This is made worse through the Eurodollar system. Eurodollars are time deposits denominated in US dollars at banks outside the United States, and thus are not under the jurisdiction of the Federal Reserve. Consequently, such deposits are subject to much less regulation than similar deposits within the United States. Despite the claims of MMTers, in 2016 the Eurodollar market size was estimated at around 13.833 trillion. This is approximately the same as the M2 money stock around the same time. Now that US Treasuries have negative real yields, it's only a matter of time before the Treasuries held overseas return home, pushing CPI higher. As CPI increases, overseas forex reserves will also follow. Now, how high will taxes need to be to offset this? And how many government employees are going to be digging holes?